Good morning, everyone. Today, today we are going to discuss the topic of inheritance. Inheritance is a major topic in a OOPS concepts. OOPS can be built on a four pillars of the things. One was the inheritance, one was the abstraction, another thing was a polymorphism, and another thing was a encapsulation. Okay. On this, all the four concepts, your OOPS can be organized like the same way. Inheritance is the major concept to evolving in the OOPS. Major advantage of the code reusability. The inheritance main concept is that you can use the code reusability and avoid the what are the hard coded code you can use for the everything. Suppose imagine a thing, you have a you are writing one class of code for the calculation operation. Okay, suppose imagine a thing, you are going to perform an operation of a one project of the task. You have to build the scientific calculator. Okay, you have to build the scientific calculator. In before that, you have a one specific calculator which have the basic calculator. You already have the code of the basic calculator. Okay, you have already the code of the basic calculator. What it contains? The methods of add, subtraction, multiplication, and the division. These all methods can be you can perform for the two numbers or any numbers. You are already perform a logic and you can create a one class for this entire functionality. Okay, for the entire functionality you developed one thing. Suppose in a case, now the project requirement was changed. Now they has to be go for the scientific calc. Okay, in the scientific calc they want to include some other functionalities of suppose they can develop the modulus operation, and also they want to develop a square root operation. Okay, and they also want to develop some other operation of the logarithmic operations. Like that, they are intent to add on some functionalities to that. In that scenario, scientific calc require these basic things and also some advanced things. By that, inheritance concept, how can easy this is? Suppose already you have this code, you can use this code. You can use this code in this scientific calc also. How can you use this code? Is in the way of inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but you can use the code of one class, or you can use the one class methods and properties in the other class. Simply, inheritance is the concept of use the one class properties and the methods in the other class. So you can inherit this calc class with the calculator. Then you can use that these four functionalities through this calc class or the calc project. That means you are not writing the what are the code existing for the basic calculator. You can write it only for the what are the improvements, and you can use the basic things also by inherited from that. How it is suppose in a real world example, or telling like a parental or the family structure. Suppose now you are from a age of the 25 or the 26. Suppose you are getting a one job and you are earning some money and save the amount, right? That is your own property. That is your own property. And also you are getting some properties from your parent, right? Your parent can earn some money and save the money, and they have some properties. After the parent, the properties belongs to you only, right? And also you have a right to ask the parents for in the value of property and the money shares in the properties, right? Like the same way. That means, suppose take the calc as you and calculator as your parent. You can have your own futures. You can have the right on your own futures and also right on the parent futures. Like that, there are the two things. One was the parent, another thing as a subclass. We are calling it as a parent and child normally. Parent and subclass in a terminology. Parent is nothing but the class which is inherited by, from which we are inherited. That class is a parent class. Which class is inherited? That class is calc. Suppose this calc is inherited from the calculator, then calc becomes the child, calculator becomes the calculator becomes the parent. Here you want to know the terminology, parent, subclasses, and all the things. By this you cannot write all the code what you can write for the calculator again in this thing. You can simply reuse it where you want. You can add some other features to your new class, and also you can use what are the existing features you have. Okay, what are the existing features you have you can use, and also what are the new features you want to add, you can add for your child. Simply, inheritance is the concept of use the one class properties and methods in other class. Inheritance is use the properties and methods of one class into other class. Okay, one class into other class. This is simply an inheritance, and inheritance also have a types. Inheritance have the types. The inheritance types we have is types of inheritance. The major types is first one, single level inheritance, and multi-level inheritance, and hierarchical inheritance, and fourth one is a multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Okay, and fifth one is nothing but a hybrid inheritance. Above four are the important. Below one is nothing but you suppose in a program you are using the any one of two types of inheritance, then it will become a hybrid inheritance. Hybrid is nothing but suppose you are using any two or more than inheritance in a single program, then it will be a hybrid inheritance. Nothing in that. Okay, above four are the important. Okay, first we will see with the single level inheritance. Single level inheritance or the basic inheritance, it can be explained the what is the inheritance and all. Okay, single level inheritance is nothing but the class is inherited by the only single parent. That means subclass has only a single parent, then the type of inheritance is called single level inheritance. Subclass or child having only one parent or inherited by the only one class having only one parent, then it called as a single level inheritance. Single level inheritance is a same simple. Taking the example for the scenario till suppose parent like suppose from father, and in the scenario of you, father and you. This is the stage. In a family example, you can take like a suppose you are earning some properties and you are getting your father properties and also your properties. Normally they are saying like suppose in a example also, always if you observe, you can access the parent properties, but parent cannot access the child properties. Imagine a thing, from parent to, that means from child to parent you can access. Suppose you are in the child class, you can access the parent methods or the parent properties or the attributes, but from the parent you can't access the child properties or methods. Okay, why? Because parent doesn't have no right and also parent doesn't know about it. Why? Because if you take an example like in a natural example, suppose someone qualifies you like you looks like, or your smile looks like your father, or your smile looks like your mother, like that they can qualifies you with your parents in a upper stage. Not they can compare with your suppose they can qualifies your father with you are looks like your son. They are not qualifies like that. They are qualifies like you looks like your father, right? The same way here the child can access the parent methods and the parent objects, that means parent methods and the parent properties, but parent cannot access the child properties and the child methods. Okay, the thing that you have to be remember in the inheritance concept. In the inheritance concept, child can access the parent properties methods, parent properties and methods, but parent cannot access child. Parent cannot access a child. Okay, parent cannot access a child properties. Fine. We'll see one by one in type of inheritance with an example, and we'll move to the next. Okay, in a class I can create a new package to me, new Java package. My package is com dot okay, com.datewall. In that I can create a new Java class. The class is suppose employee is one class, or else any other thing like a inheritance. Okay, inheritance is one class. This is the main class what I am running. This is the main class what I am running. Okay, fine. Fine. Suppose I can create a new class. My class name as we'll take an office scenarios of example. Suppose in a office they have a different roles. Suppose developers have, quality testers have, and sales managers have, HRs, and like a lead developers and architects, manager, like that they have a roles, but at last all are employees, right? All are the employees. Developer is also an employer, lead developer is also an employee, team lead also an employee, and manager is also an employee in an organization, right? Like the same way, my employee is a base class here. Okay, class employee, I can create a class. My class employee is a base class. My employee class contains a method. So suppose normally what the employee contains the employee ID, right? Every employee contains an employee ID and an employee name, right? Employee name, basic things, employee ID and then employee name. Okay, suppose you can take like a EMP, it will be the employee name. Suppose these are the basic things. Every employee have these things, right? Every employee have these basic things. Suppose I have another class. The class is an suppose developer is an class. Okay, developer, in the developer I have to add some more operation of role assigning, and what was the role, in that role what he has to perform. Suppose here I can include a method of void employee info. Suppose void employee info. In that I can print sysout of suppose employee ID. Okay, employee ID comma this one employee id plus emp id, right? Like that I can assign. Yeah, in the same way I can print the employee name also. Employee name plus emp name, right? emp name. Like that I can display some information of the employee ID and all, but I am not initializing this employee ID and the employee name, right? For that I have to create a constructor, right? For that I have to create a constructor. For a while, before explaining the constructor topic, okay, here only you can explain the constructor. Okay, public. How can I define a constructor? Constructor is as a same as the class name, and here you have to pass the int, suppose emp id comma string name, right? String or else emp name, anything, it will be the anything, it is just a variable, right? So it will be the anything, and here you have to be include, right? This dot emp id equals to emp id. In the same way, this dot employee name equals to employee name, right? Fine. This dot employee name equals to employee name. This is a simple example. You can suppose if this is a one class, it will be fine. It will be the fine for the everything. Suppose you want to categorize a roles. Suppose developer have, suppose normal employee can have the employee feature. Normal employee can have the employee feature. Suppose developer, what the developer can be write a code for the developer can write the code, right? Suppose if you go with the tester can test the code. That is a different functionality. But everyone have the employee name and the employee ID. Their roles are the different. And also suppose if you go with the HR requirement or the HR operation, what it is, they can search for the talent and they can hire the candidates who can fit for the jobs, right? That is the role. And the sales manager can be searching for the sales and analyzing the sales, how the company can growing. It all can be done by the sales. That means there are the different functions you can add for the every role, or the different proper behaviors you can add. But the common thing between them is employee ID and an employee name. Suppose in an organization, everyone have an employee ID and an employee name, but the roles can be changed and their methods can be, or their operations or their working can be changed. In that scenario, simply I can declare a base class. I can inherit it to the somewhere. And I can use it, right? That is the thing. Suppose it is an example. It is a one base class. I can initializing the employee ID and the employee name and the employee info. Here I am not initializing any role. Suppose that employee have a role as a developer in a scenario. It is a normal thing. Suppose how can you create an object for an employee? You can simply create an employee object. E1 equals to new employee of, you can pass the values of the employee ID and an employee name. Okay, right? Like that you can pass. This is the employee class. How can you use it in your main class? But the thing here is you want to declare another class, and how this employee class methods can be used in that other class. The thing is, suppose I can create a class developer. Developer is a new class. Extends is the keyword. Helps to inherit it from the parent. Now it is an employee inherited from the employee class, right? Inherited from the employee class. This is nothing but why it throws an error, because of here I am using the constructor, right? to assigning some values. But we, first I'll explain without the constructor, then I'll explain with the constructor. Then you can easily understand. Suppose here I am initializing with an employee ID of 101 and employee name of Vishnu. Okay, fine. Now it will not throw an error. Okay. Suppose you want to access that. Suppose you want to access the things. You can access this employee ID and the employee name and the employee info. Suppose here you want to add one more thing to that developer. You want to add the role string role equals to, suppose developer is the role. Okay, developer is the role, and here I can include a one method of write code. Okay, why? Because developer only write the code, right? This is one example. See out developer write the code. Developer can write the code, right? Developer can write the code. Now I am creating object for this developer, not creating object for the employee. Okay, if you are creating object for the developer only, you can access the developer methods and the properties, and also you can access the employee properties and the employee methods. That means always you have to create the object for the child. In a inheritance, you are creating object for the childs, not creating object for the parents. Suppose in a scenario, I can create object for the employee class. Okay, employee E1 equals to new employee of. Okay, by using this E1, I can access the only things of employee ID. Okay, I can access only employee ID and employee name and employee info method. Why? Because I am creating object for the employee class, so I can access all the things of employee. What contains this class contains what are the things, I can access the entire things. But in a scenario, if I creating object for the developer, if I creating an object for the developer, D1 equals to new developer of. Okay, like the way I can create an object for the developer, then in that scenario I can access employee ID. Okay, I can access the employee ID, I can access the employee name, and I can access the employee role. Okay, employee role, and I can access the employee info, and I can access the write code, That means by creating an object for the child, I can access the child methods and the properties along with the parent methods and the properties. This is the single level inheritance. Why it is a single level inheritance? This is only one child. Okay, this is only one child. It has only single parent. Okay, a subclass can have only a single parent. Then the type of inheritance you are using is called as a single level inheritance. Okay, single level inheritance. Now I can call this, right? Okay, here I creating an object. Suppose if I want to try to access like event dot write code, it throws an error. Why? Because employee class not contains the write code method. Okay, so in before also I am saying like from the parent you can't access the child methods and the child properties, but you can access the parent methods and the parent properties from the parent object. Suppose here I can access the employee info. Okay, here I can access the employee info. Here I can access the D1 dot employee ID can access, employee info also I can access, role also I can access. Okay, I can access the employee info, I can access the role, I can access the employee ID, I can access the employee name. That is the scenario you have to be understand with the inheritance concept. From the inheritance you can access only the parent properties and the parent methods from any level of hierarchy you are. Okay, Suppose if I run this, both can print the same output, but one was calling with the E1, one was calling with the D1. 101 Vishnu, 101 Vishnu. Okay, right? One was from by using the E1 object, one was from the D1 object. Okay, this is the thing. It is the thing with the single level inheritance. Okay, simply single level inheritance is nothing but you can access the parent methods and the parent properties. Single level inheritance, only it has a single parent. Okay, only it has single level of parent, one subclass, one parent. This is the single level inheritance. And in before constructor. Okay, suppose here I am directly initializing the values, but if you are directly initializing the values, what are the use case? If you are creating every object E1, E2, E3, everything will be the same, right? Always your values not be hard coded. Every time it has to be dynamic. Remember the one thing, always your values has to be dynamic only, not hard coded anytime. Okay. Now what is the scenario? Suppose, imagine a thing. Here I am creating an constructor find. Here I am creating an constructor find. If I creating object for the employee class, then I can pass the values in the employee class. When I am creating an object here, okay, when I am creating an object here I can pass the values to that constructor. It will be work fine. We already seen in the previous session how to pass the values to the constructor. But here we are dealing with the inheritance concept. Here we are dealing with the inheritance concept. We are not creating an object for the. We are not creating object for the parent. We are creating object for the child, right? We are creating an object for the child, not creating an object for the parent. Then how can you pass the values to the parent, right? Suppose in a scenario, here I can pass, right? Here only I can have to pass, but it doesn't contains that role. Suppose here I can pass the employee ID and the employee name, but employee ID and employee name contains the employee class, not developer. It can access, but it doesn't. It cannot initialize in the values. In that scenario, what you have to do is, suppose here also I can not mentioning the role. Okay, it will be fine. Okay. Now, public. The same. Here also you can create a constructor for your developer class. This is the developer constructor. What are the things you have to be passed to your parent? You can initializing in your child. Okay, in your child, initialize it. And another thing, what the thing you have to use? The thing is string role, right? String role. All can be passed to the only child class, but some things you have to be traverse it to the parent. Then how can you pass the values to your parent? Is super is the keyword. Okay, super is the keyword. By using this super, you can pass the values. Suppose I want to pass employee ID and employee name, right? Okay, and one thing you have to be initialized with the role, right? What are the things you have to be initialized in the child? You can initialize in the child itself. Okay, what are the roles you have to be, that means what are the variables you have to be initialized with the child class or the subclass object, or the if within the subclass you can access directly in the same approach. How can we use in a, how we are using in a normal constructors and all, but you want to pass to the parent, then super keyword helps to you. Okay, super keyword helps to call the parent constructors, parent methods and parent properties. 3 ways. Super keyword helps to in a 3 ways. One was calling the parent constructor, one was calling the parent properties, one was calling the parent methods. Okay, by this way it can initialize the values. Here only you have to be pass the values. My values are suppose here I can pass with the 102 comma string is an ABC, fine, and the employee role is an developer. Employee role is an developer. Employee ID I am giving as a string type, right? It has to be integer, right? Fine. Now you can run. This is your aim, right? Every time for the every object the value should be dynamic, right? Every time the value should be dynamic. How can you initialize the parent class things is this is the scenario by using the super keyword. By using the super keyword, you can access. Suppose you want to access this employee ID, okay? You want to access this employee ID. What the thing you have in the developer class? Suppose here I have to print employee ID, okay? Employee with ID okay, employee with ID, okay, employee with ID. If you observe, I am not accessing by using the any object reference or else by using any this reference like that. Simply I am writing the employee ID name, okay, fine, it was fine. Now it will be print, right? Control S. If I run this, now it will be print. I am not calling this method, right? Okay. D1 dot write code. Here I can write D1 dot write code. Fine. D1 dot write code. Run this. Okay. Employee with ID 102. Write the code. Okay. In a scenario, observe the thing. Suppose the same variable name contains by the your subclass and your parent. Suppose the same variable name contains by the your subclass and your parent. Then what will be the scenario which will be take? Okay. Observe. Suppose here by default I can assign a one role. The role is a string role equals to employee. Okay. By default I am assigning one role. Role equals to employee. Okay, fine. Now if I run this, employee with the role. Okay. Here I can print the employee with role. Here I can mention the role. Fine. It never throws an any error. Okay. Why? Because role variable contains by your parent class and your child class. Okay. What it will print? Developer. That means which value it will taken? It was taken the current class value. Suppose you want to display in the what is the exact value contains by your parent. Okay. What is the exact value contains by your parent? Then super dot row. What did it print? Employee. If I directly tell like parent methods with the super role, then you are not understand without super what is the difference, with super what is the difference. If there are the different variable names in the subclass and the parent, then it will be works fine. Suppose in a scenario both contains the same variable names, then both contains the same variable names, how can you differentiate that? In other way also you can differentiate. Okay. Suppose if this dot role means it will print the class, that means current instance. Suppose you want to particularly access the parent role, particularly access the parent things, then super is the keyword. Okay, super is the keyword to use that. Super is the keyword you can use. Okay, your super keyword can help you in a 3 ways. Okay, super keyword. You can use this in a 3 ways. One way is to call the constructor, to call a parent class constructor or parent class constructor or parent constructor, anything will be the fine. Constructor. Okay, and you can access the parent properties and call the parent methods. In the same way, like how can you access the parent properties there? Here you want to call the parent methods. You can directly call the method of employee info. Okay, you can directly call that. Suppose the same method contains your subclass also, the same name and the same method contains your subclass also, but you want to particularly run the parent class employee method, then super. Then super. Okay, now it will be run your parent class employee info method. Okay, suppose employee info method contains your child also. If I use like this, here I can have the same the employee info. Same I have the control V void of employee info of sysout a developer. Okay, developer. Suppose if I use that super class, then it will execute this parent class employee info method. If I am not use this super keyword, then it will include the developer. Then it will run the employee info of the existing class method. Okay, fine. You have to understand the by using the super keyword and without using the super keyword, the difference. If the method names are the different, it will be work fine, but the case will be only when it contains the duplicate names. When it contains the duplicate names, fine. This is the super keyword and the basic inheritance. What is an inheritance and all that thing. Okay. Normally, majorly we are using the super keyword for the constructor calling. Okay. Majorly for these purposes. For this purpose only we are using the super keyword to calling the constructor. And one thing I have to say, always your super keyword is at the first statement. Suppose in a block, always your super keyword is as a first statement. Okay, always your super keyword as a first statement. Remember the thing. Fine. Super keyword always use as a first in a constructor. First statement in your constructor. Suppose here I can use like super dot employee info. Okay, it was fine, but in a constructor you have to always use as the first statement in your constructor, in the child class constructor, the super keyword. Okay, fine. This is the single level of inheritance. Simply single level inheritance is this. Okay, fine. Next, multi-level inheritance. suppose in a hierarchy, you, okay, your father and your grandfather. This is the hierarchy, nothing else. At each level everything has a single parent only, okay. At each level everything, suppose you are at the level of father have only single parent, right? Father have only single parent. And suppose you are at the your case, then you have only a single parent, right? Single parent in the sense you are only acquiring from the properties or the methods from the father, but father already exists from the grandfather. Some has the properties which was belonging from the grandfathers, right? Grandfather come some earn the money and it will give to your father, and your father can give to you the properties like a land, like the houses, all the things. The same scenario. Not we can say as multiple parents, we can say it as a multi-level parent, okay. Multi-level parent means a subclass can inherit the properties and the methods from a more than two level of classes. Multi-level is simply subclass can inherit the properties, methods from more than single level of parents. We are not calling it as more than two parents, in the sense of the you has only a single parent, father, but properties can be inherited from the grandfather, okay. We can't say like it as a multiple parent in the sense means you can access the properties of your father and your mother. Then you can say like it has a multiple parent. It is a multi-level parent. Multi-level means you have the acquiring properties and the methods from the more than single level of parent. It is one level and it is another level, okay. This is the scenario. Simply we can perform this. How can we perform? We already go with the developer, right? We can initialize another class here, okay. The class is nothing but team lead, okay, or else lead developer. Team lead or else a lead developer. Normally in a company, how the stages can be evolved is developer can write a code, team lead also can write the code. It's not a problem. That's the way, right? Team lead also can write the code, and team lead another functionality is he has to verify the code which was written by developer, okay, which was by developer. It can be analysis by the team lead and tell the this is not a correct approach, like that. He can give the inputs on that code. In a normal any company also this is the process only. Junior developers, lead developers, team leads, on the team lead architect, on the architect manager. They can segregate the positions and they can segregate the class and they can segregate the salary, okay. Team lead, this team lead, okay, sorry. This team lead, suppose team lead can extend from the developer. So if you are creating an object for your team lead, then you can access the developer methods and the employee methods and the employee properties. Suppose if you are creating only for the developers, then you can access the only developer properties and the developer methods and employee properties and the employee methods. But the team lead can write the code, can analyze the code. What are the team lead functionalities majorly? Team lead can have the employee ID and the employee name and the role role is as a team lead, and also he can write the code, and also he can analysis the code. One another functionality, analysis. You have to add that other feature to your team lead class. Then simply you can inherit it from your developer class, right? You can inherit it from your developer class and write another functionality of void review the code, right? Code review. In the terminology of your software, we are calling it as code review. Void review is sort of code reviewed by the team lead. Code reviewed by team lead. Okay. Why it was throws an error? Because it was extended from the developer class, right? Developer class expect some ఇంకోసారి మాట్లాడితే మాత్రం బాగోదు చెప్తున్నాను. Team lead, why it will throw an error? Because team lead inherit from the developer class, right? Developer class expect some values. You are creating only object for your team lead, right? So it needs the constructor, right? Public, my constructor name as the same as class name, and the same what the things you are declaring here. You can initialize with the thing. Suppose you want to initialize another things for the team lead, then you can initialize here. Okay. And here you can mention the super. Now here you are passing the 3. Okay. If you observe, you are here passing the 3. Why you are passing the 3? Because your team lead inherited from your developer constructor accepts or expect the 3 parameters, right? So you are passing the 3 parameters in the super keyword. In the same way here you are passing only 2 parameters. Why? Because your employee class expect the 2 parameters, so you are passing 2 parameters from the developer, but from the team lead you are passing the 3 parameters. This super calls the constructor of developer. That means super keyword always calls the above parent. Super keyword always calls your above parent. Okay. Super employee role, fine. And one thing, nothing to initialize in the team lead, right? The same way here you can write a team lead, right? Team lead T1 equals to, or TL is the team lead designation. New team lead of, here I can pass a value of 103 and the employee name as XYZ. Okay. And role as a team lead. Okay. Now the role as a team lead. Okay, TL I am creating, but I am not calling the any method, right? So I can call the first T1 dot employee info. Sorry, it is TL, right? TL dot employee info. TL dot write code. You can call the write code, and also you can call the review. You can call the review. All the things you can access to the upper direction. Okay, and the role code reviewed by team lead and the employee, right? team lead role, it was assigned or not. How can we see? Where we printing the team lead role? Super dot role, right? Here I can just mention the role. Okay. Now I can run this. The role is assigned with a team lead. Why? Because here I am passing the value of team lead, right? So team lead developer write the code. Employee with the team role. Team lead can write the code. Fine. Employee with the thing, he can do the scenarios. Fine. Fine. This is a multi-level inheritance. This is the multi-level inheritance. Fine. Suppose we are calling this a hybrid inheritance also. Hybrid inheritance in the sense you can use the any two inheritance in a single program. Here I am using the single level inheritance, I am using, multi-level also I am using. I can use another inheritance of the multiple, or else I can use another inheritance of hierarchical, then it will be the thing. Okay. Then next one is a hierarchical. Hierarchical in the scenario or in the example, suppose imagine a task of you and your sibling sister, both can have the same right on the properties of your parent, right? That means two childs can be inherited from a single parent, two or more childs can be inherited from a single parent. Then the type of inheritance we are calling it as a hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance is nothing but two or more subclasses can have a single parent. Okay, two or more subclasses can have the single parent. The type of inheritance we are calling as a hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance. In a hierarchical inheritance means two or more subclasses or the childs. Subclasses or childs having a single parent. Then the type of inheritance we are calling as a hierarchical inheritance. Suppose a parent, father, okay, and it has a brother one, or else a child one, and the child two, both having the single parent. This is one class and this is another class, both having the single parent. Okay, then the type of inheritance we are calling as a hierarchical inheritance. In this scenario only, you can explain like suppose employee is the class, right? Developer is one class. We can see till to the developer. Okay, developer. Suppose we can take another role of class HR. Okay, class HR. HR is another role. Class HR is also an employee, right? So I can extend it from an extends from employee class, right? Extends from employee class. Here what the issue is, I have to write the constructor, right? Controls. Here I can mention the role string role, right? here I have to mention as HR. Okay, fine. This dot role equals to role. Fine. HR operations are recruit the jobs. Okay. Void recruit. Sys out of recruiting the jobs. Okay. Recruiting the jobs. HR. Now HR class is also inherited from the employee. Then in the context of HR, who is the parent for the HR? Employee, right? In the context of developer, who is the parent? Employee, right? So developer and HR are the siblings. Okay, these two classes are the siblings. This is the hierarchical inheritance. Single parent and the different siblings. Now, if I creating an object for the HR class, then it is possible to access the write code. If I creating an object for HR class, it is possible to access the write code method. No, right? Why? Because HR only extend from the employee, not from the developer. So it can access only the HR methods and the HR properties along with the employee methods and the employee properties. Simply comparing with, like, suppose you and your brother or sister or anyone you have, you can earn some money and you can build some properties, okay, and store some properties, right? You sibling also can do the same way. You have no right to ask the properties of your sibling, right? You have a right to ask the properties of your parent, but you don't have the right to ask your properties of your sibling, right? That is the scenario. Here also. From the HR, you can access the only HR methods and the HR properties along with the parent methods and the that is employee methods and the employee properties. But you can't access the developer methods and the developer properties. Why? Because HR doesn't know who is the developer. HR doesn't know. HR doesn't have any information regarding that. Right? HR doesn't have any information regarding the thing. Fine? Fine. This is the scenario of an hierarchical inheritance. The same thing. This is the hierarchical inheritance. I hope the three inheritance understand to you. Okay? Single level, multi-level and hierarchical. Okay? Always compare with your real world examples. Okay? Then only it will be better understand to you. Okay? Next one is a multiple inheritance. Before move on to that multiple inheritance, I want to tell you one concept of method overriding. Okay? Why? Because in the multiple inheritance involving the concepts of interfaces, method overriding. Okay? So first I have to tell what is an interface and what is a method overriding. Then only I can tell the multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is nothing but two parents, a single child. In the scenario like your father has some properties, your mother has some properties, both can you access, right? That is the same scenario. One child can have the two parents. That can be achieving by using multiple inheritance in a Java. You can't directly achieve. For that achieving of a multiple inheritance, you require a concept of or the thing of interfaces. By using the interfaces only you are achieving the multiple inheritance. Because of this also your Java is not an 100% object oriented programming language. In a Java you can't directly accessing the multiple inheritance. So for that you require a concept of interfaces. So with the interfaces only your Java became the 100% object oriented programming language. Okay? Before explaining the multiple inheritance, the code control C. Okay, I can create another class. New class is as an multiple inheritance. Inheritance. Okay. Here I can declare the same class employee. Employee class is there. I have. Okay. Employee class is there. Suppose here I have an employee info, right? Already you see that method overriding. Suppose I have another class. Method overriding you can achieve in an inheritance only. Okay. Normally method overriding is a concept in a polymorphism, but here we require that because of that I am telling. Employee info. Suppose here you have an employee info class, right? Class developer extends from the employee. The same what we are doing before, now also the same. I can simply copy it, right? The constructor and all I can copy. Fine. The same scenario, but the thing is this employee info method, the same I can declare here also. Void employee info. The same method name, right? Same method name, but here I am printing the sysout along with this two. Okay, along with this two. Control V and sysout of employee role. Okay, employee role. Employee role plus it was as role, right? Or then role. Fine. Suppose if I call the employee info method by the developer, which method will be executed? This employee info method, right? Right? This is the overriding. The same method name, same method name. Method overriding is nothing but same method name, same parameters. That means suppose here you are using the one parameter count, suppose int a. Suppose here you are using the one thing, and here also the same. Method overriding is the concept of same method name and the same parameter count. Same method name and the same parameter count, but different implementation. Here we are implementing the only two statements, but here we are implementing the three statement. This is the concept of method overriding. Method overriding is nothing but you are using the same method name and the same parameter count, but different functionality. Different functionality, then this is called as a method overriding. Method overriding you can achieve by using an inheritance. Okay, method overriding you can achieve by using the inheritance. Why? Because this employee info method already exists in your employee class. That method only you are overriding. Normally we are using the yet override annotation. Why we are using that yet override annotation? Because of if you are not using that yet override annotation also, it will be override. But suppose in place of capital I mention the small I, then it will throw an error. Why? Because you are mentioning the yet override annotation, but in the parent classes, I am not finding any employee info method this type. For your understanding purpose only, you are mentioning the yet override annotation. With mentioning the yet override annotation, it is a fine. It is a just of simply a 30 lines of code. It is just simply a 30 lines of code. You can easily initialize or you can easily analyze But if the code is in thousands of lines, then it is difficult to find the methods which are inherited, which are overridden. In that scenario, yet override annotation helps to find the things. Okay, it is hard to remember the name, right? It is hard to remember the I am using the small I or the capital I am using the double E or the only single E. It is hard to remember me. Why? Because here only I am using the only one method, so I can easily see and I can mention. But when you are dealing with 1,000 lines of code, it is difficult to remember the name what you are using in that class. So simply you are using the yet override annotation. If you are placing the wrong name which you are going to override, then it can intimate to you that method I can't find in the parent class. So once check with the name. Okay, simply I can create a main method, right? Main method, and I am creating object for the developer. D1 equals to new developer of 101. My employee name as ABC developer, and the role as a developer. Fine. Then which method it was execute? It was execute the this employee method, this employee info method, not this employee info method. Why? Because it will be override, right? It will be override by the, okay, I am not call anything. I have to call that d1 dot employee info. Here I have to pass a value, right? Just I can pass the one dummy value. Just a dummy value. Build failed. It will be build failed. Why? Because here what the classes names what I am using here, the same I am using in the same package in the com date 12. So it has the scope already, the employee class will be exist. So I'll do one thing, I'll simply change the employee to the small e, and here all to the small e, here to the small d, okay, and here to the small e, and here to the small d. Fine. Anything? Here I am creating the developer, and here also the developer. Fine, right. Control S, and you can run the Java. Employee 101 ABC developer, right? This is the method overriding concept. Why I am telling that method overriding? Because of to tell the interfaces. What is an interface? Interface is nothing but a blueprint of your class. How your class should be like. Okay? How your class should be like, it will be told by your interface. Interface is it is a blueprint of your class. It is a blueprint of your class, Fine. It is a blueprint of your class. Why I am telling the blueprint of your class is, suppose imagine a thing. Suppose here observe, you are creating an object d1, right? D1 means what? D1 means it contains the role, it contains the developer, it contains the employee info. That means D1 contains all the things, right? Class is what? Blueprint of your object, right? That means how your object look like, that can be defining in your class. So it is a blueprint of your object. Like the same way, Interface is nothing but blueprint of your class. Blueprint of your class. How the blueprint of your class is simply. For explaining that, I can take another example, or else in this example I can tell, but where I have to create. Okay, I can take another example. It will be simple to me and explain. I can take another class. Okay, my class is simply interfaces. I am using the capital I here. If you are using the small I, then it will be a error. Why? Because small I with the interface is a keyword. For suppose you want to declare one class, what the keyword you are using? Class as the keyword, right? The same way for declaring an interface, you are using the interface as a keyword. Here I can use one main method. Main method, right? Okay, fine. I can create one interface here. Okay, the interface is simply like a one bank or anything. Okay, or else employee, or else organization. Suppose organization or an enterprise or anything. Organization. Okay, organization is one interface. Here I am creating an interface, organization. Okay, this is interface. This is one interface. Normally, how can you create a class? Like you can create an interface. You can ask like in the here you are creating the classes here, but interfaces you are creating as a new file. It's not like that. You can create a new class also. This employee class also like a new class file. Then you can use it. So I think in the previous session I explained that, right? Suppose the same here I can include that interface also. Here also I can include that interface. Suppose interface public. Interface always should be a public. Suppose interface one. Okay, interface one. Fine. Interface one. What your interface contains? Interface contains only abstract methods. Okay, interface contains only the abstract methods. What the abstract methods? Normally method is a block of code, right? There are the two methods we have. One was abstract methods, another thing was a concrete methods. Concrete method means suppose it is a concrete method. Why it is a concrete method is we are writing implementation to that. That means we are writing a method body. If a method contains a method body, then it will call it as a concrete method. If method doesn't contain any body, then it is a abstract method. Then without a body, if you are creating a method, what will be the purpose? You are overriding that method and writing functionality in the child classes. Suppose interface one is one method, right? Or else I can use it as a father. Okay, here only I can explain the multiple inheritance. Father as a interface. Then here I can use the, what is the issue? Public type father must be defined. It's a known. Define its own file. Okay. Only one thing should be public. Okay, interface. Suppose the public can be used in a separate file, but you can't use the same public in a same file. The thing is the same. Suppose here I can mention one type of void father properties. Okay, or else father properties. Okay, father properties. This is one method, right? This is one method, but I am not writing any body to that. That means any implementation I am not write for that method. Like the way, suppose how can I use that method, right? Suppose if you are including a method without writing any implementation to that method, then what is the purpose? Fine, what is the purpose? Then you have to write a implementation in your child class. Okay, child class, or else, okay, without creating a new class I can use this class. Okay, this is also one class, right? But here you have to use the implements. When you are inherited from your interfaces, must use the implements is the keyword. Here it will throw an error. Why? Because when you are inherited to your child one interface, must you have to be include the unimplemented methods. We are calling this an unimplemented method. First you have to be include the unimplemented method. Unimplemented. Here I can write sys out of interface method. Okay. Okay, you have to mention the public. Then you can how can you use this method? Suppose IT equals to interfaces of new interfaces of right. You can create an object. Next IT dot father properties, right? IT dot father properties. If you observe, I am writing definition in somewhere and writing the implementation in the somewhere. Simply, if you observe, it is a blueprint of your class, right? It is a blueprint of your class. That means what are the methods it has, that all should be in your child class. So it is a simply blueprint of your class, right? That's why we are calling as interface as a blueprint of the class. Interface you can't directly run. Interfaces must inherit it to the somewhere, then only you can run. I can run this, right? Interface.java. Interface method. Okay. The same way. Suppose you can have the another interface. Interface mother. Okay, mother. Now here I can show the multiple inheritance concept. Father properties. The same way you have a mother properties. All can be belongs to child only, right? So here I can use a child. Okay, sorry, class child implements. Must you have to use the implements father comma mother. Must you have to implement the unimplemented, add unimplemented methods. Okay, simply you are using the override addition. Why? Because you are overriding the what the method you have, right? You are using the overriding concept. Here you are using the overriding concept. Because of that, first I am telling that overriding. Here I can write sys out of mother properties. Mother properties accessed by child. Mother properties accessed by child. The same way here also. Father properties accessed by child, right? Father properties access. Here child is one subclass. One subclass contains the two parent class, right? One subclass contains two parents, more than two parents or two parents. Okay, then it is called as a multiple inheritance. Okay, multiple inheritance, never confused to the any type of inheritance. Okay, single level means only it has a, or it was inherited from only one child, only one parent. In the multi level means it was inherited from the levels of parents. Okay, in the hierarchical, it, single parent can be inherited to the different subclasses. Okay, and when it comes to the multiple, single child can have more than two parents. Okay, two or more than, that means at least two parents. Okay, this is the interfaces concept. These are we are using in a it will throw an error, right? Not at all an error, it will not cause that properties. Why? Because you have to declare, you have to create an object for the object for child, right? Child, and it dot father properties you can call, and you can call the it dot mother properties. Okay, but in the inheritance you can't write the concrete methods. What is the concrete method means? Concrete method means the methods with implementation. Method with implementation you can't write in a here. Suppose, but here you can initialize the values. Suppose int org equals to 123. Okay, you can initialize the values, you can access it, but you cannot write the method body. That is the thing. Okay, interfaces can accept the properties and the methods, but the thing is only that it can accept the abstract methods. Okay, this interfaces concept we can discuss in the time of abstraction also, not all issue. Simply you have to understand interfaces can contain the properties and along with the unimplemented methods. Okay, that unimplemented methods you can implement by overriding concept. For that overriding must you have to be inherit. Suppose you want to perform the overriding, then you have to be perform inheritance. Okay, these are the interlinked concepts. This is all about the inheritance. Okay, thank you.